What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Professor M, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, guys, I am here to bring you all my review of Samurai Champloo Episode 2. Let's get this started. So with this episode of Samurai Champloo, we pretty much have the three, Mugen, Jin, and Fu, pretty much get themselves into another little predicament in which they are confronted by the person who Mugen ended up getting into a fight with in the very first episode of Samurai Champloo. That was of high royalty. He was like the son of a very high heir, and Mugen ended up cutting off his arm, and he makes a return in this episode, hiring a ogre and an assassin. So the son of high royalty that lost his arm wants revenge on Mugen, so he ends up hiring this ogre-looking guy and pretty much wants revenge against Mugen and pretty much tells him to assassinate Mugen. And to do this, we know that Mugen is traveling with Fu and Jin. So to do this, they're going to need to capture Fu and get rid of Jin somehow or another, because of the fact if another samurai comes by, that's going to be trouble for them. So he ends up hiring an assassin to pretty much, basically take his time with Jin until the deed is done with Mugen. And I gotta tell you, this guy ended up really thinking ahead, because not only did he try to lure Jin away from the group, but he also ended up capturing Fu, and also he ended up poisoning Mugen in this episode. And when Mugen eventually fought in this episode, he was almost on the verge of death, because he stated that his arms felt like noodles and he couldn't really move and give it his all in the fight. And honestly, Mugen would have lost at the end of this episode of Samurai Champloo. He probably would have died. But if he did die, there would be no other story to tell with Samurai Champloo, So really, the one who ended up saving everyone within this episode was in fact the damsel in distress, Fu. Now the reason why I say Fu is technically the one who saved the day is because of the fact she was really the only one to acknowledge this ogre and pretty much accept this ogre for who he is, and really didn't call him ugly to begin with on the spot, because if she did end up calling him ugly, probably she would have been killed. But then again, Fu is Fu. She's a very kind-hearted person, at least from what we have seen in these first few episodes of Samurai Champloo. So while she probably only said this to survive, I highly doubt it, because just due to her personality in general, she's just a very kind-hearted person. Now, we really didn't get too much backstory on the ogre, but what we do know is that pretty much, just because of his face, he was pretty much thrown out of town, and many people, called him ugly, a monster, and this pretty much had a traumatic experience on, himself. Now we really don't know how exactly his face became disfigured. He could have been born with it, which is also a possibility, but maybe at some given point in his life he ended up being beaten, and that is why his face became disfigured. We really do not know the overall plot point to, how he came to who he ended up becoming, but then again, he is a very minor character, and he ends up sadly getting killed in this episode. But, I really liked how they handled this episode, and even though Fu kind of played the damsel in distress, and I have a feeling she is probably going to, get into these types of scenarios more, she, had a reason as to why, she ended up saving everybody. Because if she didn't tell the ogre to stop, from killing Mugen, the ogre wouldn't have let go of his blade, and the ogre would have killed Mugen in the process, and therefore Mugen, Jin, and Fu would no longer be a thing. Sadly, Mugen ends up killing the ogre in this episode, which in turn causes the assassin who is fighting Jin in this episode to pretty much say, hey, see ya, my client is pretty much dead. There's no reason for me to kill you or, use my time on you. So pretty much he leaves, and then also before the ogre ended up dying, he also ended up killing the son of high royalty. So yeah, pretty much, you know, we see a lot of people go down in this fight. Mugen ends up getting the antidote to the poison that he ended up receiving, so that's good. We're going to be able to see more of Mugen, but yeah, I'm really loving Samurai Champloo so far. I mean, it's just so fun. And let's talk about the comedy really quick, because the comedy was on point in this episode. Mugen was very sassy in this episode, which I really liked, and then there's also a point which I thought was the funniest part of the episode, where we have Jin and the assassin. Before they knew each other as certain enemies at one given point, they end up both going into a hot spring, okay? And we see that there are fireflies pretty much everywhere, and this assassin is giving like a prep talk to Jin, and basically saying, you know, it's very interesting how these male fireflies tend to attract the female firefly, but there is also some cases in which a male tries to attract another male, and they are the only two in the hot springs, and it just turns completely silent from that. And then we have it to where Jin is like, it's time to go. It's so funny. So yeah, when it comes to these first two episodes of Samurai Champloo, I am loving it. The comedy is amazing. The fight scenes are very entertaining to watch, especially Mugen's fighting style. Like, I love that, and his sassy nature. It's so funny. And then we also have Jin, who, you know, even though he's a very timid and not very much of a talkative sort of character, when he does end up talking, like, you just can tell how much of a badass he is, and at some points he actually can be funny due to the dialogue he exchanges with other characters. And then Fu, well, Fu is Fu, you know. So yeah, I'm very much enjoying these few episodes that I have seen from Samurai Champloo, and I am enjoying the series so far, and I can't wait to actually see what is gonna come in these later episodes of Samurai Champloo. I wonder what sort of scenarios they're going to get themselves into, and, you know, is Fu always going to play the damsel in distress? I guess I'll have to wait and see. That about does it for this episode review of Samurai Champloo, guys. I hope you are enjoying the series if you are watching this with me. I'm going to try to get more episode reviews out of this series as quickly as I possibly can. But, you know, when it comes to personal stuff in my life, like work, the gym, and all of that, you know, I got to make time for those sort of things. But I'm going to try to get these reviews out as quickly as I possibly can. So hopefully you guys understand that. So yeah, if you are watching this series with me, let me know in the comments down below on what you thought about this episode of Samurai Champloo. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like. It always helps out the channel. And if you want to stick up to date to my future content on this channel, please hit that red subscribe button below, and you will never miss a video from me. That about does it for this video, guys. Love you all, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.